Thank you, Tabitha. And thanks for all you and Charlie and the broader CogX team are really doing to pivot CogX. It's been a brilliant experience so far, and I know we're all hugely grateful. I mean, 17 tracks with virtual events is super impressive. So thanks for having us today. We're thrilled to be supporting CogX as ever. And I know we've got people streaming in from different markets around the world. So welcome to our audiences. This session is really around innovation, resilience, collaboration. Since the pandemic really struck us all around the world a few months ago now, every city is having to sort of dig deep in terms of that innovation, resilience and collaboration. And London is no exception to that. And I think we've all seen sort of lots of examples over the last few weeks and months of how that collaboration is having a huge impact and really helping our city in terms of our transition and looking towards recovery and the future. So today I'm really excited because we're going to have businesses with us and representatives from all different sizes of businesses. As Tabitha said, it's our ecosystem is, you know, corporates and startups and scale-ups. At London and Partners, for what we sort of pride ourselves in is really attracting businesses into London, whether they're startups or scale-ups or corporates, and really help them to scale once they choose London as their place to be. And we also help a lot of those sort of indigenous startups here in London to grow and then internationalize and compete on the world stage. So we're very passionate about this topic, and everything we do is in collaboration and partnerships. So I'm going to be joined today by three super impressive business leaders and collaborators, and we've collaborated with them a lot at London and Partners. We're joined by, first of all, by Amali Alwis from Microsoft, who I'm going to introduce a little bit more shortly, by Chen from this incredible company Emotech, and Kenna from Brand Advance. I'll give you a little bit more information about them shortly. But if I could first welcome onto the stage Amali. Many of you will know Amali Alwis. She's an incredible part of our London ecosystem, not just for technology, but for broader business. She's the UK Managing Director of Microsoft for Startups, which supports leading B2B tech startups grow with their support, with their platform, with their technology. Prior to that, many of you will know Amali from her role as CEO of Code First Girls, a multi-award winning training company, and she had a huge impact on that real next generation of getting more and more girls coding. So welcome, Amali.
Hello, Janet. What a pleasure to be joining.
Well, I'm particularly thrilled to have you with us today because I know Microsoft are really playing a pivotal role in really supporting London's broader infrastructure. And I know that London is considered a real leader in terms of resilience and innovation. And, you know, we've been inventing ourselves for hundreds and hundreds of years, but we can't do that on our own. And, you know, obviously we need companies like Microsoft to be partnering with. I would just like to sort of kick off by asking you, from your experience of all the various collaborations that you have across our ecosystem, what have you particularly learned over the last few months in terms of any effective collaborations that you've developed, or how you've had to dig deep as an organization, as a big global corporate, to make sure that you're resilient during these challenging times?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if anything has sort of shown up over the past few months has been how resilient, companies based in the UK are, and particularly obviously based in London. We're very proud of our presence here in London and the way that we work with companies as well. And I think, continuing to support companies to operate, to grow, and to really sort of showcase what they're capable of doing in the current environment is really key. I know you and I sort of work together outside of obviously CogX with things like the London and Partners MES International Business Programme. And one of the reasons why we got involved in programs like that was around showcasing the companies that we have, that we work with into the international sphere, and just, showing how incredible they are and what we can do around that. And I think, certainly as far as companies like Microsoft, we have such a role to play as far as not only supporting people to do more as far as sort of our direct customers, but also for those who are choosing to very kindly build their products and services on our products and services. How can we help them to do more with that as well?
And how are you supporting these sort of startups and scale-ups, particularly now? I don't think there's ever been a more important time to really support our business communities, especially startups. So you have incredible technology, but what else are you doing in a sort of wider sense to support these businesses in London?
Yeah, the partnership aspect is really key. So Microsoft are actually running partner sales programs, for example, for about 30 years. And through Microsoft for Startups, we actually support startups, B2B software startups specifically, to actually not only develop their tech, but actually to go to market. And this is really around saying, look, if you are building your products and services on our products and services, it's in our interest for you to be more successful. So what can we do as far as linking you to our other enterprise clients, helping you to polish up if you're a startup and going out to sell to an enterprise client for the first time, and how do we help you to feel more confident? But also for those sort of larger companies who are choosing to buy from startups and scale-ups, how do we help you to buy with more confidence? How do we help you to have a sort of an assurance of quality of the companies that you're working with, that they're building with technologies which are stable, and helping those companies to do that? And we run a number of programs, so things like our Microsoft for Startups offer, things like our scale-up program, which is for Series A stage companies. So yeah, definitely go and check those programs out. Happy to share more information if anyone has any questions. But this is really around saying we're stronger if we partner, we're more resilient if we partner, and how can we help you to make those connections to keep your business going?
And have there been any surprises then in way, because you've had to pivot like CogX and like London and Partners in terms of delivering a lot of your support virtually, probably through Teams and other platforms, but has there been any real surprises where you've really supported a business through a new international deal or a partnership that you've thought, wow, I wasn't expecting that to happen through these challenging times?
Yeah, I mean, just we have for example, we actually have one of our cohorts in shop at the moment, our AI for Good cohort, who are some incredible companies who are actually not only building technology businesses, but they're doing so for businesses which have a mission focus. And we've supported, for example, some of those companies to be raising money. We've been connecting them to VCs. We've been helping others actually to connect with employer sort of support mechanisms. And just thinking about even some of those companies. So I was chatting to one of those companies actually on CogX in a fireside chat, Akari, earlier today. They've been launching, for example, with support from Microsoft, an amazing tool called Eva, which is actually plugs into Teams and helps to allow better communication and more inclusive communication and support for people who are using Teams. And they've been rolling that out to NHS providers to support them with their teams and how they kind of support them online and offline through the current environment as well. So those types of connections, I think, are really valuable and hopefully help the companies who we work with to make use of our tools in the best way, to connect to the types of organizations who will find those tools useful, and obviously, sell more products, raise revenues, connect to VCs, raise funding. We've got another one who actually just raised funding recently. I can't announce that on it yet, but hopefully some really helpful tools just to help stabilize some of those businesses through what is, pretty rocky times for a small business.
Really good to hear. And I have to say, I have been really impressed with your AI cohort and everything that you're delivering for them. This sort of is a really nice way to introduce our next guest speaker, because she has founded the most incredible AI robotics company with emotion. And so welcome, Chelsea Chen. So Chelsea's co-founder of Emotech, the world's first AI company dedicated to exploring multimodality in robotics and emotional AI. We've known Chelsea for quite some time now, and I continue to be impressed, not just with what you're building with Emotech, but also with the collaborations that you've also been forming across the London ecosystem. Can you just share with us a little bit first, Chelsea, about your journey with building Emotech and how you've sort of started to scale through these collaborations?
Yeah, I think give a little bit background, probably from myself. I think I am one of the best example of how London is open and how a woman can run into the computer science industry. Before I moved to London in 2013, I used to work in Ogilvy Matter, that advertising agency, to see the Asia Pacific's Johnny Walker and also Bailey's digital communication and also CRM. I founded was CEO Hong Bin of Emotech in 2015. So the specialty of this company, just like we create this name, Emotech, we try to bring emotion to the technology and make human to get to have the better life based on the AI. So the specialty of our company is we do multimodality AI. So it's the upgrade AI of comparing with single modality. So we combine speech and language, computer vision, and spatial AI, text all together. So in 2017, we launched the first robot with a personality called Ollie. It helped us won 4 CES awards. So far, it's still the best record in the world. In 2019, we luckily improved our technology and launched the first AI English teaching assistant, and luckily to be one of the winners of London Business Award. So this year, I mean, we upgrade our technology, make our AI teaching assistant to be more impactful and even more affordable for many families and also schools and children.
Fantastic. And how have you done your sort of outreach? Because clearly you've developed a product you never probably predicted how important it would be through 2020. Yeah. So who you actually collaborated with to get the word out and to make sure that the teachers and parents and everybody are aware of this robotic piece of AI?
Yeah, I mean, when we launched our first teaching AI assistant, our original idea is we noticed, especially in Asian countries, getting proper English education, especially with native speakers teachers can be super expensive. And also because there are always limited teachers there. So most of the students may good at exams, but they cannot pronounce English well, they cannot speak, and they even feel not confident to talk with foreigners, etc. And also this brings us a big concern about education equality. So we had this idea, but so I give you a little background about this solution. It's basically we get the teacher, we not deliver the audio courses. We get the teachers with video, the multimodality with lip movements and also the audio and text together. So the students can learn from the real human teachers, but when they off the class, they can practice with virtual teachers at any time they want, and also they can get the correct assessments at any time. Even the background is noisy. So your parents.
Where are you selling these into? Is it mainly in Asia or is it here in the UK as well?
It's in the UK as well. So because of the COVID-19, to be honest, because it happened firstly in China. So in this February, we adapt this AI teaching assistant to Chinese, we call WeChat mini program. So almost every Chinese users can use that. So we quickly help a lot of the teachers and the students when they have to be locked down at home. They can still learn English well. And but now we didn't realize this can help an English country such as the UK. Now we collaborate, we are promoted by British Embassy, try to help more British universities because the new semester is coming. Some universities have a big challenge about test your students, especially the oral English and speak English well, but without enough human teachers or because of the coronavirus, you cannot do the face-to-face in-person testing.
Yeah, no, it's a really important product, and it's actually your business is one that's sounds like it's thriving through this pandemic more because you've got such a relevant product.
Yeah.
I'm just going to bring in our third guest, because I think we touched a little bit about how you're sort of selling into international markets, Chelsea. And Chris Kenna, who's the CEO and founder of Brand Advance, has been very, very successful in a number of international markets. And so he founder of an award-winning ad tech company, offers a communications platform and business to connect brands with diversity audiences through really strong data insights, media planning, buying, partnerships, content services. So really valuable, not just now, but I think, going forward, I think Brand Advance is got a really important part to play in our ecosystem. So Chris, welcome.
Hey, how you doing?
Great. Hi, Chris. Thanks so much for joining us. You've heard a little bit from Amali about, the way Microsoft are really supporting our ecosystem and really collaborating and partnering, and with Chelsea's brilliant product with her sort of how she's sort of helping in terms of education. Now, you're sort of more across probably many industries, aren't you, with what you're doing with Brand Advance? Can you talk to us a little bit about your sort of experience of collaboration and innovation within our ecosystem, and how it's helped give you a platform, if you like, to scale it into other markets?
Yeah. I mean, our collaboration has been a lot with the brands that we work with, so Unilever and Google, etc. But to give a bit of background on what Brand Advance is for anyone that doesn't know, we basically help brands to reach diverse audiences in media, so in contextual media. So i.e., there's a lot of brand safety out there in the, in the ecosystem for programmatic, for digital advertising, etc. And a lot of them brand safety have sort of keyword blocking, so blocking the word Black, Muslim, interracial, gay, lesbian, because the internet can be a big bad world, and there's brands don't want to go near content, and also don't want to fund content that could be against their brand ethos, or could be funding sort of race or racist speech or something like that. So because of that, a lot of the instruments used by the whole industry could sometimes mean that they're cutting off big audiences. We've been seeing it a lot now with like COVID. A lot of publishers and platforms saying that they're not getting ad revenue because of COVID, but they're just trying to bring us the stories that people need to see. They're trying to bring you the messaging that people need, etc. But this has been quite relevant within media like Black, Asian, minority, ethnic, LGBT, disability, gender empowerment, etc. These media that have been blocked pretty much, forever. So we built another ad tech platform, went around the world, scooped up all of the publications and platforms that reach these demographics, put them on our own ad tech. And now we work with, from governments through to the biggest brands, to make sure that they, to help them reach these audiences, to show the relevance of reaching these audiences. And I'm sure everyone could agree, now more than ever, for a variety of reasons. COVID, we're quite fortunate at Brand Advance that we were growing. We're sort of just under 2 years old, and we were growing fast before, but since COVID started, my company's twice the size now that it was the day we went into lockdown. So I have twice as many staff, and sort of from all metrics, revenue, etc., we've increased a lot. And the basic reason for that, there's a multitude of reasons, but now the world is looking at different demographics differently.
So that's great to hear, Chris. Delighted to hear about your growth. Has that been, what would you say, organic growth, or was that being through specific pivoting or innovation that you've been able to work on in order to sort of meet the demand?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the growth was to meet the demand.
Yeah.
As all growth often is. But I mean, the basic premise of what Brand Advance is to help you reach these demographics. Now, mindsets, whether it's a marketing mindset, whether it's a government mindset, have shifted. Think of key workers 3 months ago were called low skilled or low paid workers.
Yeah.
Now, every Thursday we clap for key workers, but key workers are still bin men, transport, bus drivers, working on the lower ends of NHS, but now a mindset of a key worker and, all these demographics that we represent globally, but for the UK, tend to fall into these different...
really, this whole through this pandemic, you found that it's highlighted these different communities, and you can have these big brands access these communities, which they probably couldn't do before.
In a nice, safe environment with, also bringing up these publications, these voices, communities, bringing the ad tech up to standard with the rest of the ecosystem as well. So what's
your experience of really engaging with these sort of the big brands in London or the big international brands in London? Obviously, we've got one with Amali on the stage today.
Yeah.
Do you find it sounds like you found it relatively easy? Am I right, or have there been a few challenges along?
Is anything in life easy? But it wasn't difficult. No, I mean, Brand Advance has been lucky in we have a solution to a problem that people didn't know was a problem until you tell them, and then they go back and they check in their own ecosystem, speak to their own agencies, look at their own keyword block lists and go, oh gosh, we block the word black, So there was a solution to a problem that people didn't know. And there's a reason why they're doing that, the blocking, because it could go next to gang-related blocking, Muslim because it could be next to some terror-related content, etc., etc. But also there's a flip side to that, which is, you might not be reaching 76% of, I think Vice Media did a survey, 76% of all LGBTQ content, good content, doesn't have any advertising, or can't be reached by these major brands. So the brands, are brands in London that where their head office is in London or where it's not. So Unilever, their head office is in Rotterdam, but their London branches have been not just supportive, but have actually pushed Brand Advance along. Where we've went and spoke in Cologne, at Mexico, with Unilever and the WFA, and so brands have passed us to other brands. In all honesty,
which is great to hear. It's like pay it forward in the corporate world, which you don't always hear, but it's a great story. I mean, if I can just bring Amali and Chelsea both back in on this conversation, because I think diversity and inclusion, which is clearly at the heart of Brand Advance in such a positive way. And it's great to hear, Chris, that you can actually have an influence. A lot of people are wanting to, really genuinely want to make change right now. That's around COVID-19, whether that's around Black Lives Matter. And it's great to hear of, companies like yours that can actually really help the big brands in a very pragmatic way. But also with London, diversity and inclusion and sustainability is really at the centre of everything that we do and everything that we are sort of at the heart of our sort of recovery as well, if you like, as we look towards our transition. Amali and Chelsea, I know these are topics close to your heart, but can you just talk a little bit about how you make sure that, say, for Microsoft, it's a big organization, how can you have an impact on sort of diversity and inclusion from a London point of view as you're scaling what you're scaling and these new collaborations and these new partnerships? Do you make sure that when you're building partnerships, Amali, that the partners have the same values as you?
It's really important. And I think for any big company, we need to put our money and effort where our mouth is. And, it's something which I'm certainly really passionate about from my old sort of Code First Girls days. I was a founding member of Tech Talent Charter. And from Microsoft's side, we work with some really extraordinary organizations who help us to figure out how to engage and how to do this in a better way. So from the Microsoft for Startups perspective, for example, we work with YSYS, Deborah Kenna, who's the founder there, and they run some amazing programs for diverse founders and helping them to actually make their way in the world. And then our job as Microsoft is to make sure that they not only get support to run their programs, but then those founders get support when they want to grow their businesses as well. Another organization, Color in Tech, who again do some amazing programs around supporting founders from underrepresented and underserved backgrounds to build businesses. And again, we've hosted courses of theirs. We have had our people join and help advise those individual founders. And I think it's how do we take that next step after that as well? It's like it's all well and good to actually support the programs and do that work, but then our job, our responsibility to that is then to help those young founders, those new founders, those underrepresented founders to actually find a path into how we can support them as Microsoft into the bigger businesses as well. And certainly one of my things as far as sort of our whole community and the companies that we bring on board is to make sure that that is representative of the amazing talent that we have in London, because frankly, that is one of the reasons why Microsoft has a base in London. That's one of the reasons why we are a sort of a global leader as far as building tech companies, is because we have fantastic people here, and the fantastic people come from all different backgrounds. They bring different insights. In similar way to the point Chelsea mentioned earlier. There is a reason why founders choose London to base their businesses. We have amazing talent here, so just to make sure that we're taking advantage of that and building better businesses as a result of that.
No, it's great to hear, and it's a message that we communicate all the time, but it's great to hear from a company like yours that is continuing to scale your presence here, but also in the right way, in a very thoughtful way, in a very purposeful way, and with diversity at the very heart of what you do. And the other sort of core metric really is, especially going forward, when we sort of start thinking about transitioning out of this pandemic, is sustainability. I mean, we've all been learning and experiencing really a very sort of clean air and a very, very different London. I mean, first, Chelsea, have you, as you're sort of scaling your business, do you have sort of sustainability at the heart, and how do you build that into a company where clearly you've got a very ambitious vision for the future? How do you build that sort of sustainability and diversity into Emoquo?
Yeah, I think that the diversity, it's kind of the base for Emotech. I mean, unfortunately, I just met Amali today. So even now, I still cannot read any paragraph, cannot do any coding at all. But we have really amazing, great female coders in the company. They deliver super great works. And also, we have around 30 people in London headquarters. We speak more than 10 different languages, native languages. So it's very diverse. So back to our project recently we work on, as I mentioned, we upgrade our AI teaching assistant. We used to need to hire the real human teacher to speak English and record the video and make it to do the better assessment for the students. But now we collaborate with game industry to have the 3D fake teachers. So this thing is very new in education, but it's already very mature in game industry, in movie industry. So now our AI teaching, the lip movements is controlled by algorithm. It's exactly accurate, as good as a real human teacher, even better than a human teacher. So we use this way to save the cost and make the solution to be more approachable, which means we can even deliver this to more countries. So recently we have a big project, collaborate with Huawei, will help the children from Tibetan area. So those children, they probably first time they know English words start from 15 years old. So very lack of the education resources there. But through our technology with Huawei's hardware, everything we deliver there, and they can learn from the virtual English teacher directly to replace the real human teachers. That's what we do now. And also, as one of the founding team members of UNESCO AI Center, recently we launched a website called Corona Watch. So through this website, you can watch the COVID-19's problem globally and also do the comparison. So this is very good for supply chain or travel industry. Those kind of big corporate can oversee which area has big problem, which area may need more resources, etc.
So really, again, sort of meeting the demand, like Chris was saying earlier. I think that's what Emotech are really. You're almost pivoting. You know, you were doing very well anyway, but it sounds like you're pivoting to meet demand. Great collaboration with Huawei. And also, I appreciate that sort of diversity is at the center of everything you do. And you always talk really positively, like Amali does, around the talent and the creativity that you see in London. So, Chris, from your perspective, and we've talked obviously, your business is all about diversity. But what about sustainability? When we're looking to sort of transition into our what we call recovery, for you as businesses, it's really important as us as a city. And have you given any thought, or is your scale so rapid that you're literally focusing on just meeting the demand of all your customers right now?
I mean, the honest answer is yes. We're living by today at the moment.
Yeah.
We have an office, but actually we wouldn't fit in it anymore. Like I said, we're twice the size now as we were when we went into lockdown. So, but now our workforce is spread out more globally as well, which we're going to have to keep up. Which I hope helps by not having such a big office footprint now. People are at home, but they're sort of using the same energy that they use at home. So I know it's not taking big strides in sustainability, but cutting down a footprint of having an office and having 100 people in the office will now have 100 people spread around and a much smaller office, which isn't going to impact the environment so much as well.
Yeah, so I suppose it's having that time to think through before you suddenly decide to rent a bigger office. It's now we all understand how effective it is. Not least as CogX to stage an event like this virtually, but also all the businesses who are thinking very, very differently. And I'm conscious also that I want to allow time if there are questions coming up on chat. I think there's one relating to collaboration with universities, which is really key in our ecosystem. I know, Amali spoke about the reason you're here is because of the access to the talent, which is brilliant. But a lot of businesses choose to set up here because of the broader access to the universities in terms of R&D and collaborations. Are you at Microsoft, Amali, are you actually leveraging that with the universities here?
Absolutely, and we really do have world-class universities in the UK. So as a centre to bring in people from all around the world to study here, to understand how to build new technologies, that's amazing. And from our Microsoft research side, for example, we have a team exclusively sort of dedicated to that R&D side of things, which works very closely with lots of universities to do that. And I think it's not just about universities, it's also about schools. So how do we nurture people coming through school systems, allow them to see London as being a great place to build technologies and innovate, and how we can actually help those people throughout their ages to actually understand the role that technology can play and help them to build those technologies as well. We do have teams who actually outreach into universities specifically to help them sort of, the students to understand what they can be doing, Microsoft tools and services, but just generally around, how you can have an exciting career in tech as well. So, I've personally hosted school visits into the Microsoft for Startups teams, where we've had young men and young women who've come to take a look around to understand more about entrepreneurship, understand more about what we do, but also just to inspire them and get them excited about building things, and then thinking about how they might be able to play a role in that themselves. And it's certainly something even outside of Microsoft I'm very passionate about. I sit on the board of Ada College, so I think we support young people to get excited about building with tech is really central to that.
Okay, thanks, Amali. And Chris, do you want to come in there?
I just wanted to add on to that as well, because I'm sure you'll agree, it's not just about universities as well. for Avrea. I never went to uni. I joined the army when I was 16. 16 and 9 months, which was the earliest you're allowed. I was in care before that. So for us, for Brand Advance, and I'm sure it is for both of the companies as well, it's important as well to do that outreach into, you know, different demographics that may not have the opportunity to get to university, but are still brilliant. I've built a company, you know, I think the stats from the IPA for BAME diversity in advertising, it's gone down from 5.5% to 4.7%, but Brand Advance is about 65% BAME and about 40% LGBT, and that's over 100 offers. You know, we're making sure that we reach out not just to university schools as well, not just to universities, but, you know, to things like Brixton Finishing School, to other initiatives around London that are actually going out and, you know, into urban areas, into the States, finding, you know, whether it be BAME, whether it be people with disability as well. We support.
That's a really, really good point. I mean, don't just go to the obvious.
Yeah, you know,
work with Chris. If people are listening, work with Chris to find access to these. The broader networks that I think we should all be working with is absolutely spot on, Chris. And I know, Chelsea, your businesses was created out of a university, wasn't it, at UCL? So
yeah,
a great example of a very, very, very strong collaboration. But I'm conscious that now we're working in very, very different environment, aren't we? You know, we're all sort of there's lots of businesses who have dialed in today who are thinking about maybe establishing a presence over here, but with COVID-19, they've just paused a little bit. You know, I'd love to hear from you around, you know, what can you be saying to them right now? I mean, London and Partners, we engage with them pretty much daily, but from your perspective, why should businesses still think about, you know, building a presence here, building the network, accessing the ecosystem? What would be one tip that you would give them, or one reason, if you like?
Yeah, I think glad you mentioned London Partners. I mean, it's not just because we have a really long time working relationship with them, and also I feel, you know, Emotech actually really gets a lot of benefit from London Partners because you know, I think before 2018, Emotech is some kind of well promoted by media and also well welcomed by VCs startup, but we kind of stuck about how to scale up. But through I joined the program by London Partners called Scale Up, I get a lot of very important advisors from media industry, from technology industry, from education industry, and more important, I meet different startups or big corporates. They facing this same challenge comparing with me. So I think now we that's why we launched the AI teaching assistant in the foreign year. Just because of this, we now have business in China, in Singapore, in Abu Dhabi, in Mexico. We kind of think about the business more international, but all those information, all these advices actually happened here based on the people we met.
The connections, the programs, whether it's the program that Amali's running or the business growth program, the Mayor's International Business Program. Any international company coming into London can access these and then can scale through that way. Thanks, Chelsea. Nice plug there. Chris, what about you?
Sorry, may I add one thing? Sorry, Janet.
Okay.
One thing I also very want to share with others is sometimes, especially female from Asia, we feel we are not very confident to kind of go to a Western country to join into an industry you're not familiar with. But I feel here there are so many opportunities. You can find many amazing people like Janet, Amali, because you are female too. So here I remember, according to one report, there are over 40% of the AI company in London has female founders or co-founders. So I think we should kind of lower our barrier and to be more confident to join the London. Yeah.
Thank you, Chelsea. Really valid point. You don't have to be a woman, Chris, do you?
So mine's been sort of the other way around. Obviously, we started in London and then now we've moved and got an office in New York. But tips for, I would literally say, you know, we haven't experienced COVID, as I've said, quite the same as some businesses. We've had the opposite problems. But there's a lot of, not just London as a place, is there a lot of support and a lot that you can get stuck into, but also there's a lot of opportunity. You know, even now, I know sometimes to businesses it can feel a little bit doom and gloom, and when is it going to open up again, and when it does open, is it going to take a while for people to start getting into, and you know, getting back into the, what's the word, the new normal. But the opportunity is still there.
Yeah.
We'll pivot now. What brands, what companies, what any company needs to be now is helpful.
Yeah.
That's it. You know, gone is the time of just doing something for something's sake. Now we need helpfulness. You know, whether it's in marketing, whether it's in tech, wherever it is, it's helpfulness. We're all looking for help. We've had our whole world turn upside down. You know, the world actually stopped spinning.
Yeah.
And we've got, you know, Black Lives Matter movement, and, you know, people are really looking in themselves from all demographics. We're all looking in on ourselves. And actually what we're looking for is guidance, you know, not from leaders, but guidance within our daily life, helpfulness. Don't have a toothpaste ad, but tell me how to look after my oral hygiene when there's no dentist open for 3 months. Do you know what I mean? Stuff like,
yeah, it's a very, very good point. It's thinking in a very different way, isn't it, Chris? I totally agree. I think the pay it forward has never been more important as it is now. And I know there's some questions coming up, but there is going to be time after this for questions. So I am, you know, sort of very conscious of time. I just want to sort of ask each panelist, if you can just in a one sentence, tell me what you have learned over the last few months that may stay with you beyond COVID-19, that may have an impact on how you might shift your business, your department, your initiatives, your developments. If there's one thing that you have learned that will help shift your business as we look into the recovery, what would that be? Marley, should I go with you first?
Yeah, I think talking from the business side specifically, I think to question your assumptions about, you know, what you need to run a business. And I think going to Chris's point earlier, for example, you know, I was chatting to a friend of mine who's the head of HR for a startup, and she had conversations with her chief exec a few months ago about flexible working. And he had been reluctant to do it. He was concerned whether or not they would be able to do it effectively. Could they, you know, manage their staff in that way? Obviously, the past few months, everyone has had to work remotely. And she had a note from him probably about 3 weeks ago saying, actually, we've completely decided to change. We're going to be a work from home first company with hubs in a similar way to Chris is doing, where people can go in and work with officers. So I think if anything has taught us, you know, it has been learned over the past few months, is that we can deal with a lot of change, question your assumptions, you know, really think about what does your business need to be successful, and you know, be agile with that, you know, use that to sort of drive innovation and new thinking in your business, rather than taking the sort of the old truths, should I say, with you.
Yeah, brilliant. I completely agree. I think I'm questioning a lot of things at the moment, and I know a lot of entrepreneurs are as well. Thanks, Amali. Chris?
Yeah, mine would be mental health. I've learned that if you just look after the mental health of the people within your company, if you just empower them to be, whether it's authentic self at work, whether it's giving the tools needed to complete the job as is required, if you can just look after the mental health and well-being of your team, then they'll just work magic. Like, absolute magic. Just at times when, you know, you think that it's not possible to get something done in a time frame or deliver for an international client, when, you know, everybody's got kids hanging off their arms and life is just nuts. Actually, if you just, you know, everybody will pull together, everyone will help each other get through if you just look after your team. So it's not that I didn't look after my team before, but there's a lot more emphasis on that in everything that Brand Advance will do moving forward. Because
it's really heightened everyone's just awareness of the importance of mental health, hasn't it, through this period?
Yeah.
In a way that will stay with us beyond this period. Absolutely convinced of that. Really good point, Chris. Thank you. And Chelsea?
I think my biggest learning during this period, I think, is when you run your business, when you do your business, do not just think about your business. Do not just think about your income growth, etc. We need to think from a higher level to know what happened in the other country, what happened with some other people you are not familiar with. And the more you care for others, the more you probably can get.
Yeah,
it's my learning. Yeah,
that's great. I think, listen, learn, take that away. I mean, as Marley said, you know, question your assumptions. There's quite a few questions coming up on chat now, but I'm conscious that we have got a separate session for the Q&A, which I really hope that you can all return after the very short break, and we would love to answer those questions with you when you sort of rejoin. I just want to quickly sum up. Well, I've really enjoyed this discussion. I could go on for hours with you three, because I think you're such an interesting panel. And you know, we've talked about collaboration, innovation, the real importance of partnerships, but also how you've pivoted and really scaled businesses through this last few months, which is so impressive, but also in a very thoughtful way and with diversity at the heart of what you're doing, which I think that's lessons for all of us. And then the final few tips on, you know, question your assumptions, look after your people, you know, look after your staff, and think wider. You know, really at the moment, so read, listen to your staff, listen to what people are saying out in the ecosystem, and pay it forward. That came through quite clearly. So pay it forward with others. And I think, you know, together as an ecosystem, I can't think of a better city that I would rather be sort of transitioning out of this pandemic into recovery, especially with people like Chelsea and Chris and Amali. I think we will get through this recovery together. So thank you so much. Thanks everybody for listening. And please do join us in 10 minutes. Go and grab a cup of tea, come back to your laptops, and we'd love to have a lively Q&A. Thank you very much.
Want access to more CogX videos? Subscribe now for free at cogx.co.